Hi, this is Tara with Tara's Tips, terrific ink, paper, and stamps. It's been a little while since I've done a video. We got busy with, my sister came in from California and her husband and 6 kids. They were here for 2 weeks, and then right on the edge of that we left for vacation before they went to go home for 10 days, and no self-service, no internet, any of that kind of thing, so that was a nice relaxing time. But when we came home, our garden was overgrown with weeds because we hadn't kept up with it as good as we should have when my sister was here, and so we've been dealing with that, and just, it's summertime and life is crazy with 4 kids. So I'm sorry, I'll try to do better on not making such spaces between my videos, but today I've got a card using the Wonderful World stamp set. This is the card that I'm going to show you today, and that uses one of the celebration bundles that you can get for free when you spend $100 from now till the end of August. You could get that for free. So I'll show you a little bit more of it in the catalog here in a minute. So let's get started. Okay, so here is a closer picture of that card. And I don't know if you can tell, but I did put a wink of Stella on the rose part of it. I think it's the camera's catching that a little bit. That was kind of, you know, an afterthought. And here is the inside of the card, and then I just did a flower on my envelope because I like to decorate my envelopes. And on page 14 and 15 in the catalog is shows where if you spend $100 you can earn this for free. The Wonderful World stamp set and the Wonderful World 12x12 designer paper, and then there's some samples that they've done with that. So let's get started with that. So I am starting off with a piece of Pear Pizzazz that is 4 by 5 1/4, and I'm gonna run that through my Big Boss. And we are going to need just our plate 1, our painted texture embossing folder, and our number 4 plate, which is the specialty plate. And we're just going to line that up in the folder. Lay that down. And there we've got all that nice pretty texture on there. And while we've got the Big Boss out, I am going to bring in, this is a piece of Starry Sky. It measures 4 by 1 3/4, and I took the Scallop Contours dies. I used the 3rd largest and the 4th, you know, largest, these ones. And then to get my scallops on the outside of my card, I actually use this. I tried using it with the bigger one and I didn't like how that turned out. The scallops were too big, so then I ended up using this to go over it to get the scallops here on my card. So we're gonna bring in plate 2 and our glass plate. And this, I just lined up, I found it was easier if I lined up the corner of the die in with my scallops there. And I'm just lining them up against the edge, trying to keep it straight. And then we're going to slide that top plate on top. Sorry for that glare. I should probably try to figure out a different lighting system, but I'm not sure what way to go about that. Slide this back through, and then we are going to do that again. I'm trying to line it up the same way so that I can cut the scallops off and have my scallops line up together. So we'll see if I get it right. So then we've got our scalloped centerpiece. Okay, and while I've got the Big Boss here, I am going to come back in with my designer paper from the Wonderful World paper, and I am going to do my scallops. And then I am also going to take the smallest rectangle from the decoed rectangles and lay that in the center. And the reason I'm doing that is I'm just taking that out because nobody's going to see it once I lay the other piece over top, and I might be able to use that piece of designer paper for another card, especially if I wanted to line up a couple of those, maybe like 3 of these with a strip of different designer paper going behind them or something. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it yet, but I thought that would be nice to use. And when we get this piece that I've already cut out with the scallop contours over top, you don't notice that you've got a hole in the back. So let me get the Big Boss out of here. Okay, and I'm going to pull my paper trimmer in, and what I'm wanting to do is just cut off the edges of a scallop. So I start with a straight edge against the edge of my card. I'm going to do that on the other side as well. And then I am just cutting it in the center because I really don't have enough to go, because there's not quite enough to go across, but I figured it's getting hidden, so it doesn't matter if you've got a little bit separated there. And then we'll get our piece on there, but we've got to stamp it first. So, you know me, I like my Stamparatus. I am going to bring my Stamparatus in here and get it set up. I think I need to go this way. And just check in to see, you know, which way I need to be. Okay, so we're just gonna turn that here. And then I'm just sticking that right in here. And see, that'll go on there perfectly. And I am just using my uninked ink spot that I have put the Starry Sky ink refill in, and gonna ink up my flower. So we've got our flower there. And actually, while I've got my ink out, I am going to ink up the edges here with my sponge dauber. I just thought that gave it a little bit of extra. I'm also going to pull my piece of designer paper in and ink the edges as well. Okay, that will be that. And I'm gonna clean this off. Okay, and then for my sentiment, I use the Charming Sentiments stamp set and the coordinating dies. And I think I have it to work that way. And I cut out 2 of these. And let me show you the dies here. They're called Sentiment Silhouettes. And what I did is, normally when I, once I get my dies organized, I will put them just on the magnetic sheet and run them through the printer like that. So you end up getting black with the gray where the dies are. But on this particular one, I wanted to be able to write and see what I was writing, so that way I could write which words went in which one, so it was a quicker reference. And this is a piece of 8x5 magnetic vent cover. They come in 3 packs and they are 8x15, so you get 9, you know, if you cut them 8x5. And then I put them in a clear cover and put them in an 8.5 by 5.5 binder. So this one, when I take it off, has the, you know, I just copied it with the white paper on top. And actually, I might start putting them on a piece of white paper to copy them first, just because I think it wouldn't use as much ink as the dark, because it's got to do all that black there, so, or gray. Sometimes I try to put it on like lighter color to save ink, but I like how I did that, so it's easy to find which dies set goes with each sentiment. Okay, so we're going to take the white one and just stick it right in that spot there. And if you were just doing one card, I would stamp it first and then die cut it. But when you're doing multiples, it's nice to put it on the Stamparatus and stamp it first and then die cut it and leave it on the Stamparatus. That way you can keep putting all your empty pieces back in and going again for your multiple stamps. I should have my take your pick tool down here to pull this out, but I didn't remember to grab that. That's what happens when you film in your basement and you don't normally work in your basement with your stamp stuff. I usually work at my kitchen table with, I also have a, usually it's a 4-foot table, but I put it on a 6-foot table because I needed the 4-foot table for something else, and I decided I still had room for that 6-foot table, so I didn't go back to the 4-foot table. And we are going to, let's see here. Let's do our Wink of Stella on here. And that just gives it, let's see, a nice subtle shimmer there. Okay, so I'm going to glue the back of this. And remember, I've got a hole in my designer paper, so I don't want to glue in the center of it. And I just put a little bit on the corners and a little bit because it cuts a line through these sides. I put a couple dots on that because you've got that looseness there. Okay, so we've got that. And then for our sentiment, we could just take it and go like that and glue it on. But what I wanted to do with this sentiment, and it doesn't work with all of them, it just depends on how your sentiment is laid out, but I just cut across there. And I don't like these edges because sometimes they'll, I'll show you what I mean. When you glue that on, this edge kind of sticks out, and then this edge borders it. So you've kind of got like a little bit of a lip there that sticks out. So I like to cut off those edges a little bit. Okay, so just gonna put a little bit of glue up along the top here. And then down along the bottom. And I'm just gonna, since this is, I don't want it smearing out, I am going to let that sit for a little bit and get tacky. And meanwhile, I'm gonna come in with this. And actually, before I glue that down, I've got 2 pieces of designer paper. These are 1 by 1.5 that I am gonna glue here. You don't need a whole 4-inch strip because you're not gonna see the center anyway, so why not conserve a little bit of cardstock? That way you can make more cards out of it. So that's my reasoning anyway. I try to conserve cardstock or designer paper where I can. I'm just lining that up where I think it looks like it's center. So my garden is producing like tons of cucumbers, and I've tried making some pickles. I made some refrigerator pickles that were more like the zesty pickles that you can buy. And then I made some garlic dill pickles, and I canned those. My first batch, they kind of turned out mushy, and my second batch isn't, it's better, but not, you know, as good as crunchy as in a store. So I know Ball makes something that you can put to keep your cucumbers more crunchy, and I want to try that to see if that helps. But my husband really likes the zesty ones, and when I was making them, some of them actually, the jars sealed, even though I didn't put them in the canner, so I think that they should be good. I took them out of the refrigerator and put them down on my shelf in the basement. So I'm hoping they stay good. But the zesty ones were a little bit spicy for me. I'm not a big spice person. And that has a little bit of a tip there that I don't like, so I'm gonna Still trim that off a little. And that one as well. Okay, so we've got that. And then I am going to put that up with mini Stampin' Dimensionals. Okay, there's that. And then we're just gonna glue on our sentiment. And then we're going to we're going to put that on a Starry Sky card base. That's 8.5 by 5.5, scored in half at 4 1/4. Because it has a little bit of texture to it, I'm going to add a little extra glue there in the middle. Okay, so we've got our inside and our envelope yet. Sometimes it can be a little tricky if you've got your stamp on the Stamparatus, if you want to do all your cards first and then you can do all your envelopes, or you can mess around with it. I found that, let me clean this stamp off first. I found that if I move my stamp over to this side, I could get it to work. And I just stamped it on my clear plastic sheet so I could see where it was gonna end up. So I'm keeping my clear plastic sheet in the corner. So I'm going to put my magnet there. And that is not right. So that means I don't have the right flower that I'm using. So it's always good to double check yourself before you stamp. So I'm going to guess it's this one. Yep. So we're just moving this a little bit. I'm going to watch having two magnets in my hand. Sometimes I snap them together when I'm not paying attention because I have one in my hand and I go to move the other one and it snaps them together. And then sometimes you end up with broken magnets. I usually put my stickers on the back of them. I just hadn't done that. And I got a little bit there, so need to watch that a little bit, I guess. Okay, and then I'm going to bring this back in and bring my envelope in. And since I can't, I normally would stamp it on this side, but since I can't, you know, without taking it off the Stamparatus, I am just going to stamp it on this side of my envelope. There's no saying it has to be on one side or the other. And since I ended up getting ink where I didn't want to the last time, I'm just gonna wipe that off. So we'll pull this out of the way. And we're going to bring our card back in and just glue in the inside. And if you had a sentiment that you wanted to stamp on the inside, you could. Sometimes I like to leave them blank so I can write inside, or sometimes if I know who I want to give it to, then at that point I can stamp inside. And I would just bring in my Stamparatus and stamp, you know, put my stamp on that. And if somehow I messed it up, what I would do then is just stamp it again on a scrap of white and cut it out and either sponge Starry Sky around it, or then I would put a mat of Starry Sky behind it here. So, but that is our card. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video using the Wonderful World bundle along with a few other things. And if you did like this video, if you could subscribe if you haven't already, and if you have subscribed, if you could give it a thumbs up, or if you haven't subscribed, a thumbs up just is nice once in a while, and let me know that people are liking what I'm putting out there. And I also love to get comments on anything you've learned, or if you have any tips to do something a different way, or what do you like the best about the card. I will link a description down below with everything that I've used and the measurements. That way, if you want to follow along and make it, you've got the measurements either ahead of time, or if you want to watch the video and then try to make it, you don't have to go back and rewatch everything. You've got the measurements all there. So thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, and until next time.